Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Outer Rim Realm with myself, the Outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by my Jedi Knight partner, Danny Brown. Danny, how are you, my friend?
I am wonderful. You know what? I did something new. I did something
Mm.
new recently. I went and visited a very small place close to home
Hmm.
that we only went because the name alone tickled us. But just over the border of Derry into Donegal is a small village by the name of Muff. And
Oh.
I've always heard of it and always just sort of like laughed about the idea. So we
Hmm.
were kind of like, we were off, we all had the Tuesday off work and we were like, what will we do? We were like, let's go, let's drive down to Muff and get our picture with the sign and see what's there. So we drove down, got our picture with the sign saying, welcome to Muff because tee hee. And then we were driving through, we're like, right, let's see what's here. We'll have lunch and we'll see what's in the village. So we were driving through and we stopped in a wee bar called the Squealing Pig and had a lovely wee pint. I didn't because I was being, responsible driver, but everyone else had. But then as we were going through, I completely forgot there is a liquor brand, there's a spirit brand called Muff Liquor. And they are based in Muff. It's where it comes from. So we seen the warehouse for this place there, and we were like, let's call in, let's see what this is about. But you can take a tour of the warehouse and find out all about the history of the Muff Liquor Company. And I was like, this is cool. Let's see what's happening. So we went in and you pay your €20. And as I say, I was being the responsible driver for the group, but the rest of the group were half cut by the end of it. You get to sample. So they do vodka, gin, and whiskey, and you get to take shots of that. And then you get a drink with some mixer, and they tell you all about the history of it. So it was set up by, it originates from a farmer called Grandin McLennan, and he started out he's a potato farmer who started making poaching because that part of Donegal is known as the Poaching Peninsula. So he was making his own spirits, and then his granddaughter was like, "Oh, I think we could legitimize this, turn this into a business." So they used the poaching making method to kind of make the bases of the gin and the vodka. And that's how then they legitimized it, turned it into a business. They gave it the cheeky name of the Malt Liquor Company, and then just started from there. And they've got investors like Russell Crowe, Ed Sheeran, Jimmy Carr, like all these people now are investing in this company because they've seen how it's real grassroots family originated company, and they're making something of it. And it's very, they talk about the devil and the spirit and stuff, and that's sort of a lot of the fun and nature of the brand is there. And it was really interesting, really cool, and really nice wee spot. And there's a lovely, at the end of the tour you get to sit in the bar and try all the different cocktails, and the staff were lovely. So yes, I'm now recommending to everybody that you go and spend the day in Muff and go to the Muff Liquor Company, and hopefully our guest today, when she comes to visit Ireland, could maybe ask the organizers to take her up for a visit, maybe, perhaps.
Perhaps. That is an extraordinary day. I'm glad you enjoyed Muff. I'd imagine I'd also enjoy it. And maybe our guest will enjoy it. We'll ask in a second. Um, but today's guest, adding to our trifecta of Mandalorians on this very special Mandalorian Grogu week. Um, we had the Mandalorian himself. We had Has Vizsla. Now joining us is superstar of the screen and the stage, Danny. You may know her from The Mentalist, maybe Supernatural, maybe The Last of Us Part 2, or, as we all love her, as the Armorer from The Mandalorian. Joining us today is Emily Swallow. Emily, how are you?
Hi. I'm doing great. And Danny, that I feel like that was such an interesting and involved answer to the simple question of like, hey, what you been up to? I feel
Yeah.
like I have to up my game.
I just, you know what? I just have to tell everybody about how wonderful. Because again, like I said, we were kind of just going for the shits and giggles to get a funny
Yeah.
picture with a funny sign, but then found this wonderful village with a wonderful experience, a wonderful tourist experience. So I do recommend. Do you think you will? Do you think you'll ask if you can go and get a tour of the Mufflicker
I
warehouse?
don't know. I mean, I don't drink, so I'm
Mm,
sure it's
yes.
beautiful even without being in your cups because you being the very responsible designated
Mhm.
driver,
Yeah.
you enjoyed it. And I love that about travel. I especially love that about traveling for conventions, because I know like what my agenda is, what my responsibility is, and so I don't ever feel I will ask people for recommendations for what to do, but I just love to wander, and you make the most unexpected discoveries as you did. And
Mm.
it's so much fun.
Yeah, and that's I think the wonderful thing about Ireland is there is so many just wee random places like that. Like I say, we went because funny name, but then when you get there, you always find there's either wonderful things to do, wonderful places to
Yeah.
eat. There's so many. Like, have you ever been to Ireland before now?
Well, I was going to say, this is going to be my first time. It's so sad, but the only time I have been there before was to connect through the Dublin airport. I have
Ah,
never gotten to actually be in the outdoors.
yeah.
So I'm very excited about it. And I would love to take some time to just wander about a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta try and sort of see what there is. There's plenty to see in Dublin anyway. But if you can go sort of a wee bit further afield, if you can come up north to where we are and visit Belfast as well, Belfast is an
Hmm.
incredible city too.
All right, I'm
Hmm.
sold.
That's
And
it. Perfect.
I have
Good.
now dared to drive. I didn't, my husband drove when we were in the UK and rented a car, but I did drive in Australia. So
Mhm.
I am now familiar with the stress that comes from driving on the opposite side of the road and having to recalibrate your brain and every instinct that you have. So maybe I could just rent a car and go take off.
To
Yeah.
be to be fair though, Emily, if a police officer did stop you, you have the get out line of this is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well that would work with law enforcement.
Yeah. I think it'll depend on your officer. If they're a Star Wars fan, maybe. But.
I'll just try not to get into trouble.
Yeah, that's the best thing. That's the best thing. But
Yeah.
driving, to be fair, driving around Ireland's not too bad. It's a fairly easy going place to drive about, especially compared to
Yeah.
like mainland UK. It's hectic over there. Here's okay.
Yeah, I'm
Everyone's
sure.
fairly chill. Yeah, yeah,
Well, and that's what was nice about in Australia. I was not driving in any major cities. It was out in the countryside. So
yeah,
I feel confident.
Hmm.
yeah. Good, good. So Star Wars, eh? What's that like?
I hear people kind of like it.
Yeah, it's
Um, so what is it like? There's no way to answer that succinctly, as you know. I mean, it's been the most incredible journey since I it was a very, very unassuming audition that I had how many years ago now? Was 2018. So that's 6 years ago. Sorry, 8 years ago. Um, yeah, there was so much mystery around the project when I auditioned, which was great because, the less I know, the less stressed out I get. Um, and it's just been the most incredible journey, both being a part of the actual filming of these stories, but then seeing the impact that it continues to have on people some of whom have been watching since the very beginning, some of whom are new fans. And I love that it spans generations and that it's something that everyone can appreciate as a family. And I I had seen all the movies growing up, but I did not realize how vast the universe was, and I still continue to learn. I'm always getting schooled by fans, and I love it.
Mhm, mhm. And so you say there you'd seen the movies, but you maybe weren't like a massive in-depth fan. But where does your Star Wars journey kind of begin? Did you go to the cinema to watch the original trilogy prequels, or was it something that you kind of took in at home? What's your Star Wars journey like before getting to be a part of it?
You give me such flattery by thinking that I was a kid when the prequels came out. Um, I was a child of the 80s, and the first one I remember seeing was Return of the Jedi. I think, I was so young. Maybe I saw A New Hope first, but I just remember Ewoks. Like
Mm.
Ewoks were my way in, because I was very small and they were furry and they were cute, and so that appealed to me. So for a long time, Star Wars was just Ewoks and Princess Leia. I thought she was really cool, and at that time, I always tell people, I wanted the Princess Leia hair because it was so distinctive. But we didn't have YouTube tutorials back then to tell us how to do these things, so I never achieved it. Um, but yeah, it was always just sort of part of the fabric of my childhood. Um, and I saw all the movies, like I said, but then I had never seen the animated series. And so I didn't know much about Mandalorians apart from Boba Fett. Um, and I do remember, it's hard to like think back now that I know. So it's hard to think back and about the different pieces that came to me about what exactly I was involved with. But I do remember my best friend uh, when I told her I was shooting something that had to do with Mandalorians. She just lost it, and she was like, "It must be all about Boba Fett." And at that time, I honestly didn't know because they only gave me the scenes that I was shooting. Um, I knew so little about it, which was kind of delightful because, like I said, I couldn't really get stressed out. It was on this young fledgling platform called Disney Plus, um, and nobody knew how it was going to do because it was the first live action Star Wars TV show, and I have been involved in so many things that I've loved and really respected, and then you release them and they just don't hit, so you never know what is going to appeal to people and what they're gonna not be interested in. So it was such an incredible and insane delight to see how much people loved the show. um, and then how they did decide to build those characters because I didn't know if I would ever come back after season one. um, I only knew that I wasn't in season two when I kind of knew some people involved and did the math, and I knew they were done shooting, and so I was like, okay, I guess I'm not in it. Um, yeah, so the whole time, like, people assume that I know more than I do, and I'm just keeping it secret, but I truly never know much.
And when you say like, because we talked to Tate and Brendan, obviously they are just the bodies, like they embody the character, obviously, but they are the bodies, and then there is the voices dubbed
Mhm.
over. With the armor, it is both you in voice and body.
Yes.
Um, how do you sort of work with that in terms of you acted on the day and you do the voice then, or you acted on the day and do the voice months later? Does it change?
Both, because we record, there's a microphone in my helmet and we record it while we're shooting it. And for me, actually, Brendan is the voice because he's the one that I'm always acting with. And he is just, I cannot sing his praises enough because especially at the beginning, um, they really did not want him to reveal anything about being involved with it. They wanted to, I guess, maintain the mystery and the illusion. And some actors would take that and their pride would be wounded and they might not give as much, but he is just the ultimate team leader. Like he was always the one setting the bar with giving everything on set. He is so invested in Din Djarin, and we had the best time like talking through these scenes, trying to figure out what the heck this relationship was between these two people. We laughed nonstop because when the cameras are not rolling, those of us who are helmeted, because our vision is rather obstructed and they're very dimly lit sets, we're constantly running into things and, bonking helmets and falling over. Um, and I just had the best time figuring out these characters with him. Um, but yeah, we would record it on the day, and then the very delightful and adventurous thing about playing a character that wears a helmet is that when you go back and you have to do ADR, if sound is messed up or something, you don't have to worry about how your lips are moving. So John and Dave realized, well, we can rewrite these scenes kind of as much as we need to. And so that was a really fun piece of it too, because they're such incredible storytellers. They definitely had a vision for each season and where they wanted it to go, but they also are just so plugged in moment to moment to see once the scenes are actually playing out, okay, what does this give us? What are we still missing? What's something more we might like to have? So I would have these ADR sessions after filming where we would try lots of different things, and they were very open to ideas that I had. They trusted all of us so much with these characters and our instincts as we continued to, get deeper and deeper in there and start to understand them more. So it was a delight. And then I found, especially with season three, because I was doing so many conventions as the episodes were coming out. And so I had to make sure I watched that week's episode so I knew what the heck they wound up using so that I wouldn't, talk about a scene that hadn't actually happened or dialogue that hadn't happened. And there were some pretty delicious little moments that wound up um, not making the cut. And I don't know if they're saving those for later or if they just decided the story's not going to go that way. But it's one of the most exciting, like ongoing adventures I've had with storytelling with a role.
And when it comes to your costume, when did you kind of first go for that costume fitting? And was it sort of the costume that we see on screen, or were there bits kind of added and taken away? You know, because that's, I think, what makes the armor so iconic
Oh
is
my
that
gosh, she's
gold
so
helmet
dope.
and the fur and just everything, the
Yeah.
kilt. You know, it's a fantastic look. It's a very sort of different look from what we see in the Night Owls and everything that comes before for
Yeah.
Mandalorian. So, how much of that costume kind of developed out during the initial kind of development of the show? And, you know, did you bring anything to that?
They had it in mind from, I mean, for as long as I was involved with it. And it was, again, that was one of those things that I knew I needed to go for a fitting for this still very mysterious character. Um, and I'd never seen any images for it. And I went out to Legacy Effects where they built a lot of the costumes. And they did like a full torso cast and took all these measurements. And they were talking about the costume as if I knew what it was. And then at some point, somebody realized that I had no idea. I was completely in the dark. And they said, "Well, would you like to see it?" And the image that I first saw is basically what you see. And when we first meet her, and it just told me volumes about who she was. And I just got so giddy because, I mean, I'm sort of partial, but I feel like she is the coolest of the Mandalorians in terms of what she gets to wear. And I also love a lot of the things that feel a little frivolous. Like it's completely impractical for somebody who is constantly working with fire to have fur. Um, so I have a few different theories about that. I feel like either it's some non-flammable space creature that she, has adorned her costume with, or, and I kind of like this better, she's so confident in her blacksmithing skills that she's not worried that she's going to catch on fire. Um, but that also gets that makes it even funnier on days when we do shoot with actual fire, because there are times when I'm doing blacksmithing in a take, and the number of people that are on set ready with fire extinguishers is hilarious. I've not caught fire yet, knock on wood. Um, but yeah, that the only additions or changes that I suggested were in terms of fit. I was very excited after season one that I got some new gloves because John called them my oven mitts because they were these huge, like welder's gloves, and they were very clumsy and it was hard to pick things up. But then when I came back for, I guess it would have been Book of Boba Fett, and they gave me some new gloves. They were very much more delicate and kind of slippery, and so then I found it hard to hold on to things. And there was actually a scene in season three where I have different versions of my hammer depending on what's required of the scene. So I have a foam one that I use for hitting people. I have one that I use for actual blacksmithing and hammering, and then I have one that's pure steel that weighs about 15 pounds that I can't do anything with except hold it, but they love it because it's beautiful. And there was a scene, I think it was when the Night Owls were first arriving to the Mandalorian camp. And I'm just standing there holding the hammer, but my gloves were so slippery, it just kept sliding out of my hand. So they had to tape it to me. So then I had no choice but to hold on to it for a really long time. But yeah, most of the modifications that I asked for were just to make it a little more comfortable with all of the movement that I have to do. But the design, I just feel like they nailed it right out of the gate. There was no need to change anything.
Yeah, it's an incredible costume, and it's one of those things that I remember kind of whenever the character first kind of appeared, and a lot of people kind of were discussing around, well, what does her character, especially her helmet, sort of mean for the Star Wars
Oh, there's
universe?
so
You
many
know,
theories.
there's so many
Yeah.
theories because they're the children of the Watch, and then you have the Death Watch link and the whole Maul thing, and it kind of got me thinking. And I'm sure, obviously, you can't disclose too soon, but with not even Mandalorian and Grogu coming out, but we have Maul Shadow Lord coming out. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of wondering, so Katie Sackhoff did that move from voiceover animation to live action. Is there any murmurings of the armor going from live action to animation? Because you've got it's the
You
Maul
know as much
helmet
as I
thing.
do. I mean,
Oh,
I would love to, yeah, but
yeah.
I have no
If they
idea.
called up to be like, you wanna do some mall shadow lord, you wanna do some
Heck
voiceover
yeah.
cartoon work? Yeah, this is it now. Dave knows. We're putting out to the universe. Hopefully he'll come a knocking with that idea. But
Yeah.
I started thinking about this today. I was like, oh, what if there's that there? And especially because the armor's so staunch in her beliefs. What is it that
Yeah.
makes that happen? And the Death Watch and those under Maul were driven by his desire for vengeance and his rule of law that he kind of
Right.
brought. And is that influence still in her? Because we can see it through the horns in her helmet. Is that
Well,
something
I
that
always
we can
tell
read
people
into?
I think horns are slimming. That's the only reason she has
Mm,
them.
fair. Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. That's the answer. Nothing to do with Maul.
But I mean, already we've seen that she's a lot more adaptable.
Yes.
Because she chooses. Oh, excuse me, my dog would like to come join us.
Yay.
We would gladly have
Here,
your dog come
Norma.
join us.
She also, this is Norma
Oh.
Jean.
Hello.
Norma Jean has her own armor costume.
Oh, incredible.
She had one before I ever had my own. A fan made it for her. She doesn't, and it even has like a tiny little helmet, and on the belt there's language and the Mandalorian language. She's very chill.
Such a little
She's got
cutie.
horns. See, it makes her look
So slumming.
so much
Sort of,
thinner.
yeah.
But no, I think we've already seen that she's more adaptable. And I love that about her. And I loved that about season three, that these two characters who everyone sort of expected if they were ever in a room together, they'd fight. They were actually the ones that said, you know what? We still um, value very deeply what we believe, but we also value the strength of Mandalorian unity more than that. So how can we adapt? Um, so yeah, I don't know, but I mean, especially after talking with Sam while they were making the new mall show, I mean, yeah, I would love to be involved with that because it's just it's delicious. There's so much to mine there,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean,
right, Norma?
I think she agrees. She's like, I would also
Yeah.
like to be a mall shadow lord.
She actually just scratched on the door because she wants to go out, so I'm gonna let her
Uh,
out. She has no interest in us.
no, she's just like, I have stuff to do. Please let me
Yeah,
pass.
she's got to go lay in the sun.
I mean, why
Priorities.
wouldn't you? To be fair, I was looking out. We've had near enough rain every single day in Ireland from the start of this year, but today
Oh,
was stunning wonder day. You just looked
oh,
out and I was
nice.
like, oh, why am I working? I could be outside in that.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, Star Wars. But yeah, so Mall Shadow Lord, but on to then the other big thing that's coming out this year, and we're here to celebrate it all this week. This episode's dropping on Monday, and we will have the film by what's today's the 18th. I'm trying to think, 4 days time. Friday. The film's out on Friday.
All
I had to
right.
do the
What are
math
your
there.
plans to go see it?
We're
Where are you going to
we're
go?
we're intending to do IMAX, of course. You have to. It's
Yeah.
shot for IMAX. It's going to be great. What are your plans for it?
I don't have any yet. I guess I should make some. I feel I that May is forever away to me. Oh wait, we're in May, aren't we?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. We
This
didn't
is
record
May.
this in advance. Yeah.
I just gave it away. I am sure I will go see it in IMAX because I mean that that also I love that it got to be a TV show because I love that storytelling format these days. I think these limited series are so interesting for the way you can develop the story. But I also my very first time seeing it was on the big screen because we had the big premiere where we got to see the first three episodes in a movie theater. And I I just feel like there's nothing that compares to the experience of getting to see a film in community with other people. That's part of it. It's thank goodness we can watch things at home and I watch movies on the plane all the time and I'm so glad we can do that, but it's just a much more special thing to get to see it with other people breathing at the same time and reacting at the same time. So, yeah, I think IMAX is the way to go. Sorry, Norma now wants to go back. She's done outside. Okay. I will go in 4 days as well to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean you're not going to any advanced premiere screenings or, won't be stopping off, I don't know, London or somewhere for just see what
I
happens?
we'll see. I don't
I
know.
mean, you've already been. Sorry, you've already done. That's been
Yeah.
and gone. This is the main lead up to it. So,
I can neither confirm nor deny.
We said before you'd been to the Comic Cons, but with your character of the Armorer sort of being the patron saint of the Mandalorians and cosplay Mandalorians,
Uh-huh.
and obviously with your like most famous line, "This is the way." When you go to Comic Cons, do you feel that love from people, like that motherly love that you're like you are sort of who they look up to, who they like sort of not worship in a way, but sort of like you're the
They
protect.
respect her.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I
They are.
do, and I love that because I have so much respect for her. I aspire to be like her. She is so much more patient than I am. I really love the kind of teacher and mentor that she is. She's one of those people who I think ultimately like the word that means the most to me with her is just trust. She has so much trust that people will find their way to where they need to go. And she certainly, she gives some firm nudges when necessary. Um, but she's one of those, and I'm sure, I hope we've all had teachers like this, where somebody sees something in you that is bigger than you can see in yourself. But they also know that helping you find the way on your own is so much more valuable than just saying, all right, you have to do this, go. Um, and kind of spelling it all out for you. And I do. I see, I mean, my absolute favorite thing is when I meet little girls who cosplay as her or, want to be her. It's so meaningful to me to get to play this female character who's such a role model. But also like I love that it's not a big deal that she's a woman in this society. It's an afterthought. And I also really love people are always asking, do you hope you ever get to take off your helmet? And, are you going to do that? And um, I, I'm sure if I ever remove my helmet, John and Dave will have a very good reason. But I love that we have this incredible um, character who has such integrity and such power and such grace, and it has nothing to do with what she looks like. And especially being a woman in Hollywood, that's such a gift because I am way too aware of, how I fit into certain types or parts that I'm not right for and whether I'm pretty enough or, the wrong kind of pretty and this, that, and the other. Like my head goes to that space way too often when I'm auditioning for these things. So to get to play this character who is beloved for her character and not for what she might look like underneath is really incredible. And I also feel like there's just so much more. I feel like she stands for more than just one person, and I don't know what we would gain by knowing what she looks like. So for now, I love that she keeps the helmet on.
Would you not the armor taking her helmet off, but would you ever want to play another character that
Oh
is?
my gosh, yeah, that'd be so much fun. Yeah, I feel like, come on, guys.
Were you jealous that you didn't get to play one of the Moped Gang members in Book of Boba Fett?
Was I jealous? I hadn't, I guess now I am. I hadn't thought about that till now. Thanks a lot.
Well, I'm always jealous. Every time I see them, I'm always jealous that I'm not in that Moped Gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're Adam's favorite thing. Did you get to do? I know. So the Book of Boba Fett Mandalorian episode that you featured in is kind of more just like a separate little Mando episode from everything
Yeah,
else.
it's
But did you
basically the
get
Mandalorian.
to? Yeah, yeah. But did you get to go and have a nosy round any of the other Book of Boba Fett sets, or was your day just separate shooting day? You're doing your Mando thing, and the Book of Boba Fett was off happening over here.
Both, because okay, season one, as I said, I knew so little about what was going on. And so that incredible fight scene at the end of the first season, I didn't know anything about until, I don't know, 2 weeks before we were filming it. And then I saw that there was a fight scene with the stormtroopers, and I went to our stunt coordinator and I was like, put me in, coach. I was like, I would love to train and get to do this. And he said, well, do you have any martial arts training? And I said, no. And he said, oh, that's really cute that you want to do this. He said, but you can work on it. You can learn some stuff. And maybe like do some transitions and at least have a feel for like what it is that the fighting style for this character. So I did that and I trained in Kali for, a couple of weeks. Um, and did some like poses basically in the scene. But I was not there when we shot it, when they shot it. And so I didn't actually see it until that episode aired. And it just blew me away. And so immediately when I got the call to come be in the Book of Boba Fett, I said, is there a fight scene? I want to train. So because of that, I did wind up going, and the art stunt team and the fighting team for this show are such generous and skilled humans. They're so gracious, and so a lot of them like took their own, took time on their own to train me for the that dark saber training sequence that we had. And so I was going to set and got to see a little bit of the rest of the world of the Book of Boba Fett due to that. And I was not super sad not to be out there because they were shooting it, all those desert scenes, they were shooting like outside in the summer in California under those layers of costume, and it's not pleasant. So it was exciting to get to see it, but I didn't necessarily want to step into it. And then when we shot our stuff, of course, we were inside in the volume and much more comfortable. But yeah, it was sort of weird to because I also, I was working with Bryce Dallas Howard for that episode. So I didn't really feel like I got to step into the world of Book of Boba Fett very much. It just felt like another Mandalorian episode, which it sort of was.
Is it nice working with Bryce in the sense of
Oh
like,
yeah.
obviously her father is who her father is, but she sort of started. I'd love to see more from Bryce on the big screen, but obviously she started directing with Mando. Is it sort of nice to have a director that's not a beginner, but someone who is sort of like finding their own way?
She is so smart and so prepared. And I think, perhaps because she knows, I think when you step into a profession that someone in your family is already known for, it can go one of two ways. You can either be lazy and try to just ride the wave, or you can make sure that everyone knows that you are qualified to be there on your own. And that's the route that she's taken. And I always love working with directors who have been actors because I think the more you understand the acting process, the more you know how to get what you need out of the actors. And so I didn't get to work with her in season one of Mando, but I heard such great things from my, fellow castmates who did. So I was thrilled that she was doing that episode, and it was so much fun. And she's somebody who she has a few different versions for every scene that she wants to try. She's very methodical and very thorough with how she shoots it. But then she also says, "Okay, now what's something that you want to try? Like here's a freebie. What do you want to see happen?" I also remember though, I had to hammer a lot in that episode. And the the interesting thing about space blacksmithing is that apparently it defies some of the laws of physics that terrestrial blacksmithing does. So I had learned all these proper techniques, but then when they're shooting it, they want it to look a certain way. And I remember specifically, it's such a mundane thing, but they didn't want the hammer to bounce when I was hitting steel hammer on steel, Beskar, which is sort of physically impossible and also goes against what you want because when you're hammering to try to save your shoulder, like you want to work with the actual like physical momentum of the thing as much as possible. So you want the bounce. And we were trying to get these shots where the hammer wouldn't bounce. So they were putting like clay on it to try to stop it, but then the clay would stick to the hammer. It would come up in the shot and you could see it. I spent so much time hammering and it got to be a little miserable. And it was like a fever dream at some point. But she got what she wanted. And she's such a generous and collaborative actor or director, that it's joyful to give her what she wants because you know that whatever it is that she's like, no, we got to do it again. We got to do it again. It's going to be great. So I loved getting to collaborate with her and she's just such a joyful person and so humble, just so gracious. I mean, I found that with really everyone involved with the the show, but that really stood out. Because I think there's probably a lot of pressure, coming from the family that she comes from, and you never saw that. She just met that with the attitude of being prepared and being so having so much gratitude for being there and making sure everybody else felt appreciated. She's really just a spectacular human being.
What I got from your story there, not only is Bryce Dallas Howard a wonderful director, but I think there needs to be an Armorer t-shirt now that says Hammer Time on it. Because just your story made me think, just you constantly like hammering away at the steel.
There's so many puns that you could do
Yeah,
with the armorer. I
exactly.
wanted to market a protein powder that was "This is the way," WHUY, but apparently
Oh,
that already exists. It's somebody who has nothing to do with Star Wars. So,
But I mean, sure, have they trademarked it? Have you checked? I mean, I think there's a way to do it.
Disney
Surely.
could stop that. Emily, just before you go, and thank you very much. You've been so gracious with your time on this
pleasure.
lovely May afternoon. Um, when you go to Comic Cons, who are who are the crazier fans? The Star Wars people or the Supernatural people?
Oh, geez. Are you trying to get me in trouble? I mean, define crazy. What do you mean?
Like the Supernatural people are so in love with the boys, and
Yeah.
if anybody tries to hurt them, then they can be very defensive. Whereas the Star Wars people are very much pushing the glasses up, saying, "Did you know that the armor's metal is made out of this thing?" You're like, okay. So is it sort of like two different conversations? Is it more of a certain fan base from each side?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of overlap.
Hmm.
Um, and it's fun when I meet the couples who one of them has always been a Star Wars fan, one of them's always been a Supernatural fan, and then they take great joy in saying that they got the other one to, watch their thing. Um, and I always feel it's easier for me to ask Supernatural fans to watch The Mandalorian than the other way around, simply because Supernatural ran for 15 seasons. 22 episodes a season, and that's a lot of viewing time. Mando's a much easier watch. But I would say the main differences are just that, Star Wars has such a legacy. It's been around for decades. So it does sort of feel like there's a purity to it, I guess. It feels like there's a wholesomeness. And it sort of feels like one of the myths of our time. It's a modern myth. And Supernatural, yes, there are people, I mean, most of them are very passionately either Sam or Dean, although there's also a lot of Star Wars fans who want to ask me about Pedro Pascal. He's got a little bit of a following. Um, but I mean, it's sort of crazy now to say this because when I first met the Supernatural fandom, I'd never had experience with a fandom like that. And it didn't feel like anything could be any bigger because sorry, I'm knocking things over. They are so passionate. Um, but there's a joy in both of them. I mean, crazy. Trying to think.
Not crazy,
Everyone's
adoring,
crazy in their own
adoring.
way. And they have so much respect for it and they take such pride in the parts of it that they connect to.
Mhm.
I think that both of those worlds are worlds that are larger than life and they have these wonderful images and metaphors that we can each connect to in our own way. And even though they are both, sensational in their own ways with Supernatural and, I played God's sister. I mean, what is that? And then Star Wars obviously is in space and has all these aliens and stuff, but the characters that we love are so very human and we connect to them because of their humanity. And I think that's the strength in both of them. They have these outlandish worlds where anything can happen, but we wouldn't care if the characters didn't have so much heart. Um, and I think both fandoms, like the people that I've gotten to meet, I'm just blown away. I'm so grateful for it, and I'm so moved by the amount of just the volume of charitable work that gets done both ways. They're both communities that really care about each other and care about the world around them, and that's an incredibly impactful thing to see.
But the right answer is that the Mentalist fans are the craziest.
I will say yes to that only because that was my very first experience with a passionate fandom. And it was in the days of, it was like, I guess when Twitter was Well, it was when I was first on Twitter, and I came into that show 5 seasons in, and I had no idea that people were so rabid about Lisbon and Jane getting together. And when I was originally introduced, there was the possibility that, she was going to be a love interest for Patrick Jane. And people hated me. And I didn't understand it because I just didn't realize the fandom could get that passionate. I was like, what did I do wrong? I don't understand. And now I take all of that in stride. And I do remember on Supernatural when I first got the script where I was supposed to kiss Dean, Misha said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "Why?" He said, "The fans are going to hate you. That's just how it is." So I was a little more prepared for it, thanks to the Mentalist fans.
I have to give the Mentalist a shout out just because it was like a staple in my household growing up. It was my mum's
Mhm.
like Saturday morning ironing show. She would go over to the video store back when those were a thing, and she would get it was like you would get 2 box sets for say a tenner at the time, and she would
Yeah.
just buy up like the Mentalist box sets a season at a time as she was going through them, and they were her Sunday ironing show, so it was on all the time growing up for me.
I love that.
And while we're sharing as well, I will say that my fiance, she puts up with a lot of uh, me being nerdy.
Uh-huh.
Um, but the one character she loves in Star Wars, she doesn't care about anybody else. She loves the armor more than anybody else.
Well, thank you.
So I had to tell her, I had to tell you that she loves you because we've had people on, on the show, and she just doesn't care. As soon as I was like, "Did you know we have the armor on this week?" She was like, "Oh my God, please tell her I love her."
Well, I hope I get to meet her in Dublin. Tell
Yes.
her to come on over.
Excellent segue. You can meet Emily in Dublin this year in November 21st and 22nd. Come on down and see Emily, get stuff signed, get photos. We'll be there. So we'll get to see Emily and you'll be able to meet my lovely fiance and tell her that this is the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Could
Uh,
could could we have one This Is the Way before we wrap up?
This is the way.
Yay. Thank you so much for your time, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy this week of Mando and Grogu. Uh, Emily, you'll be watching it just like us, but unlike us, we may be in the film, me and Danny.
Who knows?
You'll get to see us. But
I can't wait.
exactly. But thank you guys, thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next week for our discussion on the Mandalorian movie. But there'll be more fun and shenanigans in the stars. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Will do well. Reserve some for the foundlings.
As it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.